and thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and to be sharing with all of you this morning. It's a beautiful day here in Toledo. We finally have an opportunity here to just be outside without instantly sweating, which I think is fabulous for all of us. And, at least now the kids can go outside and we're not just stuck to our air conditioning. So happy to be here and happy to be spending Friday morning with you. So today, and actually when I thought about applying for speaking in ProfCon, I was going through kind of this process within my own teaching of really trying to figure out how to engage students. And I'm going to use some kind of funny acronyms here and really talk about BC and AC. And not necessarily air conditioning, but before COVID and after COVID, because I think if you're an educator like me, you've noticed some really strong distinctions in how students have changed and even how their behaviors and engagements have changed in the classroom over the last couple of years. And so that's kind of how I got this idea of how can I change my adaptations, my assignments, my in-class exercises, and what I'm really using in the classroom to just enhance the experience. Because behind masks, we're all kind of able to keep to ourselves, really. It's almost as if when you're teaching online, right, you're not seeing the students, you're not seeing their engagements, and you can't really engage or really tell if people are laughing at your jokes, right? Because everybody's on mute, nobody has a video on. And then also the same thing with in class. If you have masks, it's also hard sometimes to see the smiles and to see that students are really kind of understanding what you're talking about. And so when I first started using Stukent products and simulations in the classrooms, it was of course right when COVID was happening. And so I would say before COVID, so BC, before COVID, right, we were able to kind of talk about these things in class, do small group exercises. And it was just right, again, when we were starting to shut things down. And so transitioning everything online, I wanted something that was just more engaging, more real life experiences, because we couldn't really have those hands-on exercises, or it was harder to do, so to speak, online or in the digital environment. And that's actually when then I started seeing more of the Stukent products, using more simulations and adapting them more to my coursework. And so it was a really great opportunity to just see the engagement at a different level and get students excited about what we were learning. So with the addition of the Stukent products, I became what we call at the University of Toledo an equity champion. And it's really about providing students an opportunity to be engaged in the coursework and that we're perceiving the students all equally. And so we know that through COVID, I would say again, AC after COVID, we saw some inequalities in how students were able to access the material, access the coursework. And so I wanted to be able to provide my students with just an ability to access the same things as everybody else, and to have the best experience that we could possibly have online. So as we started developing these kind of equity champions, where there's only a small percentage of the University of Toledo professors that kind of got into these groups, we started noticing that there were trends of students of things that they wanted, right, within the classroom. Better exercises, better opportunities for real world experiences, because we weren't able to go out and have these experiences. We weren't able to have guest speakers come into the classroom. And it also was different, you have these videos online, but you saw that students weren't necessarily watching the videos either. So yes, we have these great speakers, or yes, we have these great opportunities, but students weren't necessarily engaging still. And maybe they were pressing play and walking out of the room, or maybe they were just pressing play to show that they played it without realizing that we could actually say, hey, you only watched 1% of the video. Let's talk about how we can incorporate things that actually want you or make you want to excuse me, listen, engage, and really digest the content coming through. And so I decided to take this opportunity to combine what I was learning about providing students with an equitable learning opportunity, a growth mindset opportunity, with conjunction, the simulations that we've been using to kind of retrain our students in their learning, right? So even if they were online students or specifically more so our in-person students, give them the best all-around education that we can, because we realize that these types of students that are coming in AC after COVID are wanting something, again, deeper. And with things like financial barriers, health barriers, and all these kind of obstacles that started to unveil themselves, reveal themselves, we needed to start training ourselves to think differently about how we're providing information to the students. So let's talk a little bit about what the growth mindset means at first, because I'm using this phrase a lot. And if you're not familiar with it, it's almost a different language, so to speak. A colleague of mine, we're talking about it and saying that when we talk about the growth mindset, it's almost as if we're talking about our feelings, which we really don't talk a whole lot about in terms of educators. It's more of just a delivery aspect. But the growth mindset is really kind of connecting, sharing our thoughts, our feelings, providing things like welcome messages, providing things to your students like a personal growth story, and showing them that we are real people too. Especially my experiences I've seen in the past where a lot of instructors or professors will say, this is my class, take it or leave it. And really, I wanted to come to the students and say, let's learn this together. Specifically now in marketing, as you've all experienced yourselves, there's such a dramatic shift in what's happening in the world. We are buying things differently. We are shopping differently. And I would imagine that there's probably not a single person in this Zoom today that at one point hasn't bought their groceries online, right? So when we start talking about connecting, we are just kind of reducing things like status symbols, right? Or this hierarchy that we so often kind of rely on in academia, but we're trying to connect on this level of where's the student coming from and understanding that every student is different, and trying to accommodate that within reason. And so when I first heard about this growth mindset, I thought, yeah, why am I trying to be so hard on my students? Why am I trying to just create, levels or more burdens when enrollment is declining in some areas? We want to keep our students, retain our students. And so if we can, again, understand them on their level, meet them where they're at, maybe we have this opportunity to grow together. So I'm growing as an educator, they're growing as students, because we're kind of coming together at this middle ground. And so this growth mindset quote is straight from our kind of training on this growth mindset and this equity champion background. And so when students feel like they're valued, when we can connect with our students and they believe that they have an opportunity to learn and to grow. So for example, if you've ever had an opening statement in your classroom with the statement or along the lines of 10% of students, cancel out of my class before we even get started, or, only a certain percent of students are made for this class, you're already discrediting a lot of the students who have come there to really just learn. And so having this mindset allows us to kind of eliminate those discouraging phrases straight from the beginning. So from day one and even before day one, as I'll share here in a minute. So if you've ever heard any of these phrases, my potential is predetermined. Failure is the limit of my abilities. I give up easily. My intelligence is static. I am either good at it or I'm not. I avoid challenges, right? Any of these kind of discouraging phrases, either that we've thought or we've had on our own, are things that will, or what we'll call a fixed mindset. And this, I would say, is kind of the traditional BC academia stance, right? Is that a lot of students kind of come in thinking, well, I'm just going to do what I can do because that's all I can do or all I can afford. And we're kind of stunting their growth. But if we come into it with a growth mindset and start changing how we, even as educators, encourage students to participate in our classroom, right? I keep trying and I never give up. It's only an opportunity for growth, right? All of these kind of optimistic attitudes and statements that we can continually embrace and ingrain in our students will allow them to avoid this kind of downward path or downward spiral and almost thinking, I'm going to fail this class before it even starts. But if we change our mindset and have this kind of growth mindset, we're going to set these students up for things like, it might be hard, right? We might have failures, but that's going to help me grow. And it starts with things like incorporating this verbiage into your syllabus, incorporating these messages into an introductory email to your class, setting up and kind of creating these standards that, yes, there are going to be rules, there's going to be guidelines, there's going to be grades, but we're going to get through it together. We're going to work through it together. And even sharing those kind of stories about my failures or my kind of missteps along the way just enables students to really kind of truly understand, hey, look where she is, look where he is today. We can all get there because learning is never a linear path, right? And we've all heard that before. So really the three key ingredients to this growth mindset in the classroom is, number one, ability is something that students can develop. From day one, we need to keep encouraging to our students that they're going to grow. You will learn this. If not today, tomorrow. The things that you're learning today will help you tomorrow, right? We've heard these phrases before. So we want to empower our students, give them the encouragement, tell them it's okay to be vulnerable, tell them that it's okay to make mistakes. And I do this through things like having ungraded assignments or even just bouncing ideas in class. We do a lot of jam boards. If you've never done a jam board, I would really encourage you to figure that out through Google. You can go up into the apps and find that out. Or even just in-class exercises where people are breaking off into groups and hearing different experiences, right? Learning from other people. And that's kind of the greatest learning opportunity that we can provide. Number two is that we'll improve. Our ability, our marketing information, and our abilities will improve over time. This also comes with something that I think not a lot of people think about, educators think about, is that sometimes the financial cost of things can really become a burden to students. As much as I can send out an email before class starts and before the semester starts about buying books, visiting the bookstore, or going online to purchase your simulation, your materials, students often delay that, right? Because the financial burden, we know BC and AC is totally different. So we have to understand that there's going to be some challenges. I'll talk about how I help overcome some of these financial challenges with simulations here in a minute, but acknowledging that financial costs can be a burden to our learning is truly actually the first step, because sometimes we put that in the back of our minds. I've had students come to me borrowing books, using my materials just until either their financial aid can come through. And so enabling these kind of, I would say, flexible course policies is really an opportunity to, again, enhance just the idea that, hey, I'm going to do okay in this class. Just because I don't have my book doesn't mean I'm not going to succeed. It just means that the timeline might look a little bit different than other people in the course, and we'll get there. And then number three is really about providing the specific constructive feedback. And not just with you, but also providing information to students about where they can seek help and get help within the university. There are so many opportunities, and I'm certain at all universities, but not just in the College of Business, but university-wide, where students can go to access resources, financial information, mental health information, and it's just about the knowledge of that. So even just sharing this institutional knowledge, I think is key, because as educators, we think, well, we know about it, so why don't the students know about it? But that's actually really far from reality. Think about how many dozens of emails go through and students just don't read them. So it's our job, again, as educators, not just to deliver the information for our course, but what's around them, because that also helps the learning, the absorption of knowledge, and just the encouragement to keep going. Because again, we don't want to discourage them from finishing the course, or even then the retention of coming back the next semester. So let's talk about how I use some of these growth mindset attitudes and skills and kind of quote policies with our simulation. So I decided that I wanted to use the Mimic Marketing Principles simulation with my Principles of Marketing course. So at the University of Toledo in the College of Business and Innovation, the Principles of Marketing course is a required course for every single College of Business student that comes through our doors. So we really have an opportunity here to, one, introduce marketing to all types of students, and two, to actually interact with a lot of students that normally, as a marketing instructor, I would not have access to. And so I love that, because at times there are students who are marketing majors who come in, love it, want to move forward, and other majors who come in and say, now I want to change my major, which is kind of the icing on the cake, right? The cherry on top of the sundae. And so I thought, I'm really going to use my growth mindset attitude. I'm going to use my simulation to really knock it out of the park. And it's, I think, has been, in my experience, and I'll show you here in a minute, how the students have reacted to that as well. So the simulation is required for all students enrolled. At the beginning of the semester, I have it listed as a required purchase in the syllabus as well as through the bookstore. So I provide all of that information ahead of time. Additionally, I go one step further and I create a welcome message that explains all of the costs for the course up front. So of course, as I said before, sometimes those emails are received, sometimes they're not received. So listing that up front kind of enables this idea that, okay, there are going to be some costs associated with the course, but if we plan now, we can have that by time the simulation has started. So I'm pretty flexible, I will say, as to when the students need to have the simulation purchased, in addition to book materials as well. So giving them and showing them what it's going to look like then on day one, as well as then, of course, putting information in Blackboard with all custom links associated, screenshots of what it should look like, and how smoothly the process should go. So all of this is stated in advance so that there are no surprises when the student arrives on day one. Here are also some interesting statistics as well, is that through some self-identified anonymous reporting, I've done some surveys in my class, is that about 32% of my students have reported or identified as having high financial stress. And this is important because of what I'll talk about next, is that while 68% of my students report low financial stress, we are not necessarily certain of what that truly means. Is it a day-to-day financial stress? Is this that maybe our 32% don't have jobs? Are they relying on financial aid? So I'm not privy to that information, but at least understanding and acknowledging that this cost of the simulation could potentially be a burden to my students. I'm more aware of kind of the rules and limitations of what I provide as we move forward with the sim throughout the semester. about less than 5 students reported an unknown financial stress statistics. So again, not a whole lot of high financial stress, but again, we still need to be cognizant of that and flexible when it comes to telling students they're going to need to pay for this material in addition to either a book or other kind of case materials that they may encounter throughout the semester. So with that being said, I do allow students to work in pairs to help reduce the financial burden and the financial stress that are kind of associated with this fixed institutional mindset. And I say this because there are a lot of instructors that are not allowing students or not willing to allow students to work in pairs because of the thought that it might reduce the educational impact of what the simulation has to offer. So I do allow this pairs. Now, there are some rules as well. You have to show me screenshots. Both parties have to show me independent screenshots. Now, whether or not they're sharing screenshots, that's kind of out of my control. However, they have shared access through one email and proof that they also shared the cost. So I asked for either a Venmo screenshot or some sort of understanding or agreement via email that the two students who are sharing access to the simulation have actually purchased and are contributing equally throughout the simulation. So because I can't see round around who's completing what, we just have to go on this kind of honor code. And I think that because we reduce things like stress as far as course policies or stricter course policies, the students are more willing to share that information with me along the way. So as the simulation goes on, here's kind of how I run it through the course. Obviously, we're selling our boohie bags, which we all love, but I only have one due date throughout the semester. So the rounds, obviously, that you can set up through Stukent are great. In my digital marketing class, I do create a very strict timeline of what they have to have accomplished and by when, just because of how it coordinates with the text. In Intro to Marketing, what I provide is that we're going to walk through this together because it is such an awesome opportunity for an open learning environment in this course. So we have one due date, which is usually the second to last day of class. Students are allowed to walk through it throughout the semester. I have kind of some guidelines or suggested due dates throughout the semester. So about halfway through is when we start the simulation. So in the spring semester, it was right around spring break, so that we can actually start talking and learning about the 4 Ps in class before we start applying it to those concepts in the simulation. So I want to ingrain the students in that and then apply it later in the semester. So then throughout the 7 rounds, it's about every other week or so that we have the suggested due dates of the simulation rounds in class. I will show the students throughout those weeks, each round, what they can expect. I'll have screen grabs and everything that they might kind of encounter as they're going along, and remind them and say, okay, remember back in chapter 1, here's what we talked about with price. Here's what we talked about with product. And again, give them case studies along the way to just kind of say, here's what happened in this company. Now let's think about what we can do with your boohie product as well. Then that last day of class, we do a simulation highlight reel. And this is actually quite a fun class. And I do it virtually because it's a lot easier that way. Students have already submitted their final projects. They've submitted all and completed all of their exams. And so we're just kind of celebrating being done at this point. And this is when I actually also cut off grading, because I don't want students to attend the highlight reel and then just go off and complete their simulation and have 100%. Because again, we all want to work together. So I have noticed that some students maybe take that opportunity at first to wait until the last day to hurry up and do their simulation. Others will wait till we do it in class, and we actually do one physical round in class together, usually around round 4. But when we get to this highlight reel, students have pretty much, I would say 90% have completed. And that way we're able to talk about best case, worst case scenarios. We go round by round and kind of say, here's the best and the worst. This is all anonymous, by the way. So when we're talking about these best case, worst case scenarios, I look per round in the student results page and I say who got the lowest and I see who got the highest. And I take screenshots, right? And of course, there's no student information associated with it when I'm showing these screenshots. And I say, here's what this student did. What could we have done differently? And then we talk about it. And then I show the best case. What could we have done differently? Or what did they do really well to get to this point? So we do that round by round for each of the rounds. And then I give some kind of fun overall awards, right? So I choose things like what's the best bag or what's the bag that I would have purchased because I am actually part of that target market. I am Soccer Mom Sam, except for the fact that I have a full-time job. Soccer Mom Sam is fortunate enough to have a part-time job and her kind of disposable income, right? But for the most part, I fit the profile. I've got young kids. I consider myself, quote, stylish. And we make fun of that throughout the simulation as well. And so I make students also guess, what bag do you think I would like? And again, just something fun to encourage them throughout the process. We also do most colorful bag, most unique bags. And then also we give kind of some shout outs as to what the correct pricing or best pricing structure would have done very well within the simulation. So I'll share with you for a second some of the slides that we do in my course wrap up. I give a quick overview of the number of students who haven't started, how many students have completed the simulation, and number of students enrolled. So remember back when I said I allow students to share a simulation, out of my 88 students, I only had 4 groups of shared simulation use. So with that low statistic of high financial stress within my students, only about 8 students out of the 88 ended up sharing a simulation. So for the most part, 80 students completed this on their own and successfully completed the simulation. I give a most likely to succeed statistic based on what my students have selected as far as products. I give, again, which one was my favorite. Most unique bags. And of course, again, we look at things like price, color, and then as well materials. We look at best try. Now, again, this is not about discouraging students, but I also talk about how the student was able to change and fix things over their rounds and their results. So I will come back to the student and say, remember that round 2 best try when they priced their product too high, they actually switched their strategy and were able to have a really successful return and profit at the end of the simulation. Same thing again here, pricing the product at $300, again, just was a too high of a price. And we talk about the impact of that as well throughout the simulation. And then we look at best round results. And again, this is in conjunction with, if this were more of a clearer screen grab, is that everybody had priced their product really well. So right around that 150 mark and got that 98 out of 100. And then we do most improved overall. And so talking to my students about from round 1, typically I choose a student who had the lowest round 1 to the best round 7 overall, and what they did along the way. Did they change their cause? Did they change their gifts? Did they change anything with their marketing metrics? And actually, that's kind of the biggest place, is that you learn which marketing metrics along the way prove to be best. And so again, that growth mindset of saying it's okay to choose incorrectly at first, but to switch and grow along the way because you're learning what this student or what this Soccer Mom Sam is all about and what is motivating her to make her purchase. And then finally with that. So with grading, last but not least, I give one I would say, grade essentially based on participation. So I do not use any of kind of the quote standard grading metrics for the simulation. I don't grade on profits. I don't grade on ROI, nothing of the sort. It's you just need to complete it. And the motivation or the understanding of why I decided to do this is that the simulation is about applying our knowledge from the class. We all learn differently. Some students learn through exams. Some students learn through case studies. Some students learn through simulations. And so because we all learn differently, I said, it's okay to make mistakes. I just want you to complete it. I want you to take what we're learning in class, apply it to the simulation, and finish. So again, we're getting through all the rounds, but it's based on 150 points out of 950 points in the class. So about 16% of their final grade, which is substantial if some students don't complete it or only complete certain amount of rounds. So again, if you complete all the rounds, you get 100% or 150 points. But as you go down lower in the chain, if you only complete 6 out of 7 rounds, you get about 130 points. So again, it is a pretty substantial decrease the lesser the rounds that you complete. And there were only a few students who chose either not to complete, which they did purchase the simulation. So there was no correlation of students just choosing not to buy the simulation. It was that they just never completed it and for reasons unknown. I did have one extreme scenario where there was a student from Saudi Arabia. We have a very close partnership with a university in Saudi Arabia where students can complete dual degrees essentially. And so he was unable to access the simulation from his computer, either because of firewalls or what they could access overseas. And so I assigned a different project for this purpose. So really, as I've been using simulations, I've really had no other problems technology wise, but students really enjoyed it. And here's a couple of quotes from my students. Again, I think the simulation activity was beneficial to me for future endeavors, since this emphasized situations that can arise on a daily basis in the marketing world. It challenged me with new concepts regarding products, pricing, promotion. It allowed me to understand some of the aspects of marketing majors that we'll deal with in the business environment. So very positive there. As well as this activity allowed me to learn about new concepts and terms that will apply to real world situations in the business field. The simulation gave me insights on how to correctly market a product and the various steps behind this process. So overall, students really enjoyed it. Again, the impact to their learning, in addition to all of the exams and quizzes and exercises, this was just something fun that we could all do together. We're all learning together. And I even kind of mistake on purpose, right? So choosing things that show where the learning opportunity can grow from, again, enables and encourages all of us to discuss and participate on kind of a deeper level because we're all at the same kind of level playing field. So I hope this has provided you with some opportunity to and encourages you to use the simulations more, use them in a different way instead of kind of maybe the structured way. Obviously, there's no wrong way to do it, but this is how I have found success in my teaching and encouraging students to really just hit those concepts home while meeting them where they are, giving them a little bit of a different perspective along the way. So I appreciate you coming and listening. And of course, I'm going to just close with a little bit of a quote from a growth mindset is that when the students feel like their instructors believe in them and they're capable of learning new things and growing their academic abilities, their experiences within the classrooms improve and their academic outcomes improve as well. And I have experienced this firsthand. So I appreciate your time and I will open it up to any questions if you have them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We had a few come in. I'll start reading through those while we wait for any others to come in. First one, how do you help students who are struggling to get out of a fixed mindset?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So this is why I kind of said that it almost feels like we're talking in therapy at times. I never discourage students from coming to talk to me. And so sometimes I will actually look at students who are struggling grade-wise or who have personal problems and call them out, not in class, but have them come to me, or I'll send them a private message. And sometimes we have these starfish reports as well. I'm not certain, it's probably called something else in your institution, but I can put a little note to their success coach and say that the student has not completed something, and they encourage them to come reach out to us. So a lot of times I will have them come to my office and say, it's okay that you're struggling. Let's talk about it. And let's work on this together. And so this semester, I actually implemented a really new process of giving students a chance card. You guys know from Monopoly? And the chance card really just tells the student, if you've done poorly on an exam, if you've missed an exam, or something just came up, right? Oh, I forgot about this exam this weekend. Can you give me an opportunity? Typically, before COVID, I would have said, no, you knew about it. Come on, grow up. Now I say, okay, use your chance card, turn it in. You can do it without penalty, but that's your one opportunity. And so that really kind of makes them think, oh, I didn't know about that. But I put it in the syllabus at the very bottom. So you have to scroll down in order to even find it. And if you don't use it throughout the semester, you can cash it in for bonus points at the end of the semester. So it's something that just kind of changes their mindset and even says, wow, she's actually willing to work with me. That kind of changes their mindset as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like it. It's adds another layer to the, you can make up one assignment or something that makes it more fun. I like that.
Absolutely.
So another question, sorry if I missed this, but do you have students do the simulation in class or for homework?
So both. I assign kind of suggested guidelines, but then also we do complete one round in class together. So typically that round 4, because that's about the halfway mark before they get to the optimization. So we do it both.
Any lessons learned from your first semester that you're not doing anymore that you said, oh, I thought this would be a good idea, but it actually didn't work out?
Yes. So I'm not certain if this is what I should share, but grading the simulation as to how it was suggested through Stukent. So to me, that didn't necessarily work out because students were making mistakes, and I felt like it wasn't allowing students to be very, or be very forgiving to students in the learning process. So I don't use the suggested grading model. That's why I use kind of the model of just complete the rounds for credit. But I still love the product, so.
Yes. Well, that's definitely good feedback. We'll take and work on. Are most of your students marketing majors or non-marketing majors, or is it a mix?
Yes, so the Intro to Marketing course is every single student in the College of Business. So we have some marketing majors. We have all the other majors in the college as well. And then typically by the end of the semester, I've got a few converts after the class closes.
And approximately how many students per class?
So course cap is at 60 for Intro to Marketing. And I typically teach 2 sections a semester.
Okay. And then what percentage, I know you said 16% of the grade goes to simulation, but this question is, what percent of your course is filled by the simulation, and how do you break it up throughout the semester?
Yeah, so we start after spring break, so after the halfway mark with round 1, because by that point they should have the basic understandings of the 4 Ps. And then we can start applying that as we're learning more about things like pricing and promotion, and that kind of correlates. So about every week or every other week, I design it so that we spend at least one day talking about the simulation in class. So while the suggested rounds are due either every week or every other week, we spend and devote at least, I would say in the second half of the semester, at least 3 class days, going over the simulation, opening it up, answering any questions, and then having students work on it together in the classroom.
And then we have a couple more in the chat. One from Jim here just came in. So while I understand your desire to encourage participation, do you feel that students may be missing out an important lesson that marketing is performance driven and evaluated as such in the real world? So, requiring only participation versus forcing that grade.
Yeah, so that's a really great question, Jim. Thank you for that. And I will say, we talk about that as kind of the overall lesson, right? Is that if this was your job, here's what would have happened, right? And so it's not that I don't use the statistics of sales. So I pull up my student results in the Stukent kind of student center. And I kind of say, okay, let's look at the performance based on if you would have chosen this marketing route, here's what your sales could have been, right? Or here's what student A's results would have been, all anonymously. And to say that obviously this is the correct path to get to this metric. So while I'm not using it for a grade, we're certainly still talking about it and kind of hitting that lesson home. So it's not lost along the way.
Excellent. And then a couple of questions came in from Stephen. He also said that he wished he could talk to you in person because you sound like you have so much to give the education industry. A couple of his questions. What do students usually enjoy most in the Sims in your class?
So I think that they like getting a little creative with their bags and just expressing themselves through that. I have them talk a little bit about why they chose that route or that material or that price. And it's funny because I asked them to almost visualize who Soccer Mom Sam is. And I asked them to give me that descriptor, right? So I say, when you hear Soccer Mom Sam, who's in this age range and, has this, and this, who do you think of? And so we kind of have fun with it. And I think that's what they like the most. And I talked earlier about using a Jamboard. Is that, oops, sorry. I was timing myself so that I, could finish on time. But we use these Jamboards also to allow students to be almost extra honest because it is anonymous, and to say, what are some of these kind of preconceived notions that you think Soccer Mom Sam would have about buying this bag? And so they feel a little less intimidated because of the anonymous option to really open up about it. And so I think we can have fun. Now, of course, you're going to get some rogue answers, but be prepared for that, right? And so I try to say, keep it PG-13, but we're all adults here. So, give it to me, right? So I think we just kind of have fun with it is why they enjoy it so much.
Yeah, and that was another question Stephen had, is about the anonymity. Is that, would it be better or for better collaboration if they were not anonymous? But it sounds like you found they're more open and willing to share. Just if you could speak a little more to that.
Well, I think that's the generation, okay? Because they've grown up behind a screen. We can be anonymous on our Instagram. We could be anonymous with their Finstas, right? We've created this opportunity almost within our society. So why not capitalize on that within the classroom? If this is how a student feels most comfortable sharing their pictures online, why not have that same opportunity in the classroom?
Yeah, definitely. And Jim chimed in as well that he's found the students like the competitive nature, the performance and the results of the simulations, which is another fun feature. I know when I did simulations in college, that's one piece that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Those are the questions. Thank you so much for this session, Lora. It was definitely insightful.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it.
Yeah. And up next, we have 3 awesome